Hi, friends. I'm Scott Giles, and welcome to Power Talk, my podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I cover topics related to spirituality, hypno-coaching, and the hypnotic arts and sciences generally. If you'd like to know more about my professional work, and I hope you do, check out my website, which I'll tag at the end of this video. Today, I want to talk about the idea of intentional self-creation. What that means is deciding how you want to be in the world. Now, I'm sure some of you are puzzled by this. What do you mean deciding how I want to be in the world? I'm just me. Well, not really. You are you, but also you've been programmed by other people. I'd like to share a quote by one of my favorite philosophers, Robert Greene, from his book Laws of Power. And by the way, this is law number 25. He writes, "The character you seem to have been born with is not necessarily who you are. Beyond the characteristics you have inherited, your parents, your friends, and your peers have helped shape your personality. The Promethean task of the powerful is to take control of the process, to stop allowing others that ability to limit and mold you." And that's the key. You don't want to let others influence you in a way you are not aware of. You want to be who you are. Now, I've got 3 personal rules about this. Rule number 1, don't drift. Most of us do what Napoleon Hill called drifting in his last book titled Outwitting the Devil. Drifting is when you just go through life not really exercising executive control. You just react to what you were told. You swallow what your parents or friends taught you, what you read here or there, stuff that popped up on social networking and so on, and you do all of this without exercising critical thought or asking probing questions. Like, well, what does that mean? Or okay, but why is that important? Has this claim been verified, or is it just hearsay? Is this a report of news, or is it really just disguised opinion? Those are the questions, or sort of questions, that you ask when exercising your critical intelligence. If you ever have the chance to teach a freshman philosophy or an academic Bible class, you'll see this readily. The students are asked to read well-ordered arguments about positions that may completely challenge the beliefs they were raised to hold. The smarter students will realize this, take a deep breath, and wait for things to unfold and for their reasoning skills to sharpen. Others push back childishly. "Well, it's true for me." I hate that expression because it's a fallacy. Something is true, false, or indeterminate. Something can't just be true for you and false for everyone else. I recall one student who claimed that the Bible teaches pacifism and that we should turn our swords into plowshares. In response, I mentioned that there are numerous contradictions in the Bible, and then quoted Isaiah chapter 2, verse 3, where we are told to beat our swords into plowshares and our spears into pruning hooks. But then I quoted the book of Joel in the Old Testament, chapter 3, verse 10, where we're told to, quote, beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weakling say, I am a warrior, unquote. There are many such contradictions in the Hebrew and Christian scriptures. You could practically see the wheels turning in this guy's head. He had been raised to believe that the Bible was infallible and that no one could disagree with anything it said. So when I easily cited two passages that were in complete contradiction, he had no way to get his mind around that. He had been drifting. I offered him the chance to undrift by grappling with an uncomfortable reality. Scripture can be contradictory. But he didn't want to do that. He would prefer to just accept what he'd been told since childhood. Refusing to drift is what you do to ask those questions and actively seek to figure out what is going on for yourself. As the Baron de Manescu put it long ago, we receive three educations, one from our parents, one from our schoolmasters, and one from the world. The third contradicts all the first two teach us. When I was growing up, my family had a very clear sense for what I was supposed to be. For whatever reason, I was not much liked within my family of origin. Many in the family worked for a bakery called Arnold Orchards. It's a good bakery and exists to this day. Fantastic brownies and pies. But everyone was clear that my role was to be a janitor. I was to sweep up at Ornock, and that was said to me easily 1,000 times from my youngest age. Had I been drifting, I would likely have done that because it was what everyone around me said I should do. But I was able to not drift. I didn't let others decide my fate, and you can do the same. So assuming you're not drifting through life and believe that that's a good thing to continue, as I certainly believe, how do you go about doing that? Well, for me, the ancient Stoic philosophy provides a rigor that cuts through a lot of the cultural fog. If you're interested in that, I suggest you go to my YouTube channel and look for my playlist on The Golden Way and pay special attention to the video on skepticism. Your mileage might vary. But the point I want to make is that the first step in intentional life design is figuring out who and what has shaped you, and is that shaping something you want to buy into, or is it time to create some critical distance? Decide what you think things mean and what is truly important. Decide for yourself. Don't just drift. Rule number 2, choose an archetype or role model that really appeals. Now, archetypes are a concept created by psychotherapist Carl Jung as the basis of a system of psychology that remains highly influential almost 100 years after it was first proposed. The idea is that in the mind there are certain themes, and that these themes are cross-cultural. For example, the Great Mother is a theme of a nurturing presence. The All-Father is a theme of a strong, positive, masculine presence. The hero, the trickster, and many others that have little meaning outside of that particular system of psychotherapy. But the idea is that we all need to have some sort of model for who we want to be. I find that looking at a person's childhood heroes or heroines can help determine this, or at the people, both living, deceased, or even fictional, that one admires. As I looked at what influenced me, there were two such themes. The first, going back to my days as a motorcyclist and as a street fighter, was that of the outlaw. Now, I don't mean criminal. An outlaw is a person who lives by his or her own code of conduct and who puts that code first, even ahead of the laws of the land or the expectations of society. Now, I'm certainly not a criminal, although I do enjoy reading about people like Rasputin, Jesse James, Al Capone, and so on. But I get the energy of being true to one's own code. As a boy, I loved to read Western novels, and in those highly fictionalized stories, there was something called the Code of the West, a fictional but still inspirational idea of having a sense of nobility, honor, integrity, and that would come first. So the outlaw, at least a benevolent one, is one of my archetypes. And then there's the theme of the healer. Now, had I known I was going to live this long, and I had reason to believe I might not, I would likely have gone into medicine. But through my work as a minister, a chaplain, and as a medical hypnotist, I've captured that energy as well. So don't hesitate to walk the path you choose. I still wear biker jewelry as a reminder of the outlaw part of my soul. I follow my own path, not someone else's. I'm a healer, and I let that also govern what I do. I've set myself up in a not-for-profit practice because I want to help people get better. Making a lot of money isn't my goal. I maintain free programs as well as paid programs and do what I can to help people who are ill get better. The models I've chosen affect how I look and what I do. The key thing to get is that I've chosen these roles. I have intentionally created who I want to be, and it's made me happy. Rule number 3. Remember that you have a choice. You may think you've been forced into a role you don't like. Maybe you wanted to be a poet, but became a banker instead because your family thought it was more practical, and it may have been, but did it make you happy? When people tell me they don't feel they have a choice about how their life has gone or will go, I respond that you do. You may not have any easy choices, but that's not the same as having no choices at all. As psychotherapist Viktor Frankl wrote when he was imprisoned in a Nazi concentration camp, quote, "The last of human freedoms is the ability to choose one's attitude in a given set of circumstances," unquote. You can always choose the change that you think you should make. You can always choose to do something different or to believe something different. Within limits, I grant, but you always have some ability to change your circumstances, to design a life that's a better fit for who you really are. Hey, thank you for your time and attention today. I'll be back next week with another talk on a different subject, and I'd like to invite you to join me. It does help me if you let others know about my videos, so please like, share, and subscribe. If I can be of help to you, feel free to reach out through email, my website, or my Patreon channel. Stay well and stay safe.